squad, turn that shit up, man.
Keepin' it fantasy, what's your football fantasy? Keepin' it fantasy, what's your football fantasy? Keepin' it fantasy, what's your football fantasy? What's your fantasy? Keepin' it fantasy, what's your football fantasy? You come home after a long day, you need football in your life the TTNL way. You tap on your phone after fantasy play. Pause, not like that before you take it the wrong way. You have an idea what players to draft. Then tap on a beer like genuine draft. Study all the players, look close at the stats. A QB first, then a top running back. First you hear Cool Kennedy audio, then on your screen you see Jackle, Ivan, and Claudio. It's a take, never lies production. They keep it fantasy with Ivan's porno production. Keepin' it fantasy, what's your football fantasy? Keepin' it fantasy, what's your football fantasy? Keepin' it fantasy, what's your football fantasy? What's your fantasy? Keepin' it fantasy, it's a football fantasy.
Oh, this is Claudio the Barber, and this is TTNL Keepin' It Fantasy. Hopefully I am clear. Oh, I guess I'm not because these guys are laughing their ass
No.
off. Not good. Not good.
Not good.
Max Headroom. It's Claudio, the Max Headroom over here. I love
And this
it.
dance pop is not doing the.
No, it's not. I was
doing
trying to
us
get
any
some
justice.
to play down on that. Can you guys understand me right or no?
No, it's bad, bro.
What?
It's
Yeah, okay.
it's very bad.
Yeah.
I think,
You can explain the situation. Bounce off.
okay,
All right, brother.
All right.
Later,
All
my
right,
man.
brother,
All right,
later,
man.
brother.
Sorry. Have a good
No,
show.
it's all good.
Peace. All right, man.
Peace. Damn,
So-
that sucks.
It's fucking Dunkin' Donuts' fault. I mean, that's what it
I-
boils down to,
I'll
right?
blame it on them. I'll blame it on them. Yeah, guys, welcome to Keepin' It Fantasy. Yeah, we started late because we were trying to get Claudio and his audio and his, everything going right. And it obviously, as you could see, was not going right. But welcome to the show. I'm Ivan Vargas. I'm with Chris Jackle. 2/3 of the crew here at Keepin' It Fantasy. Like you just saw, Claudio had to step out. Just wasn't working with the audio and the connection. That sucks.
Hopefully he could figure. It'd be great if he could figure it out. He's still here and back. Back in the green room. So maybe he can jump on. You never know.
Yeah,
too bad, man. It was nice to have all three of us back together after last week. It was you and I, which was a great time.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I had a good time with you, but having Claudio back in the fold, hearing about his flea marketing and his how that went, I was looking forward to see his wares, if you will.
Yeah, I want to see if he could hear himself somewhere, or he could go ahead and check his audio or get it straightened out. But we'll see. Anyway, we're gonna move on without Claudio. Unfortunately, it was another good week in fantasy for me, at least. I don't know how it was for you, Chris. I don't know how it was for all you guys out there, but a wild week in fantasy yet again. A lot of, I keep going back to what Rashad said. Just a crapshoot. Every week is a crapshoot. You hit or miss with some guys. Some guys just lay eggs. And we're going to get into all that in just a second. But let's go ahead and start out with a recap of last week. Let's start out with the injuries. Who do you got for your injury list, Jackal?
I mean, it's tough, right? With you and I being here, and I know Claudio had a couple of guys on his list. So if there's someone that that's on your mind that I talk about, let me know. But the Rashad Penny injury really kind of was tough. It was a pretty, catastrophic. I think he broke his fibula, out for the year. If you did spend that second round draft capital on him, to have him go out like that, it was just tough to see anytime a guy gets hurt. But another RB1 goes down, which isn't a bad thing if you are in the market for, Kenneth Walker. But nonetheless, the Rashad Penny injury hurt. The whole Russell Wilson thing, the fake lat injury, in my opinion, because he's been playing like shit. They got to blame it on something. But he's hurt. So now he's not a must start either. I think, that's a cause for concern regardless. Anytime you're having a surgery in the middle of the season on your wing, that can't be good, especially for football, let alone fantasy points. We're trying to win some money here, and that's not helping me or you. I started his ass last week, and I definitely paid for it because I did not win. I took a beating this weekend just to piggyback your point about your fantasy. I lost to CK in our TTNL league.
Ooh.
I got Patrick Mahomes then on Monday night. He put up a big number against me, and I was sitting pretty going in. I had Josh Jacobs, but I would just not enough. And, I lost to CK, so kudos to him for the W in our league. I just give him some props. He took first place from basically, we were tied going into it. But,
right.
Man, what about you for injuries, dude?
Real quick before I get into my injury, let's try Claudio one more time. We're going to try it. Is he saying no? Was he saying no? Oh, he's saying yes? Okay, go. That's what he's saying. Go.
Yeah,
How is it?
Are we good?
I think.
Are we all right?
No,
we're not.
We get through the first 4
I
words.
gotta get this by tomorrow night for sure.
I got you, Claude. Later,
Claudio,
bro.
have a good night, my man. Send us your picks if you want, my bud.
We'll
could,
read them off.
let us know. We could put some of your starts and sits and stuff you like up here for us. Let everybody know what you're thinking.
Yeah, we'll definitely read them off.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was that Rashad Penny one. Like, it just, you feel bad for the guy. You know what I mean? Like, you feel real bad for him. For whatever reason, like the Seattle Seahawks are putting up points, and losing a guy like Rashad Penny, it's going to hurt fantasy owners, no doubt, but it's definitely going to hurt the Seahawks. They got DJ Dallas. He might be a guy to look. Kenneth Walker is another guy that you need to look for coming up. I'm sure we're going to mention it during the waiver wire.
Yeah.
I'll stick with Russell Wilson. Looking at how just bad the Broncos. I mean, the fans are done with them. Fantasy owners are done with them. If you pick them up off the waiver wire, I feel sorry. I think somebody had picked up. I think it might have been Lenny. I think he picked him up, and I was like, maybe Russ is going to come out of it. Maybe this.
Available.
Yeah, but maybe he's going to come out of a funk. You know what I mean? And Lenny's going to catch fire. No, I mean, unfortunately, he had Gino on the bench, I believe. But it was just like, damn. Because I'm like, what did Gino do? What did Russell do?
24 and a half points to Wilson's 12, I think. And
exactly.
It was,
And I'm constantly looking at that Seahawk Bronco differential. I'm like, what is Russell doing? What is Gino doing? Because not only is that a storyline, but fantasy owners, you got to love what Gino. So if you picked up Geno Smith and you're riding that wave, you got to love what he's been doing the past couple of weeks. I mean, he just put enough points. Yet, you had that obviously that shootout with the Detroit Lions. Then you had another shootout this past weekend. So it's a lot of points coming from Gino, but Russell Wilson, just a horrible disappointment. Then now he's hurt on top of that. So now you got to worry about what's going to happen in Denver. You already lost your running back Williams. So it's fantasy owners and
I think
Broncos.
they were going to cut Melvin Gordon if Javonte Williams didn't get hurt. I honestly think he might have been a guy they were going to either, if they could dump to somebody that needed a running back with these injuries. I mean, but still, you are right. I mean, Denver has the receivers, right? They had the receivers. I mean, Hamlin lost his shit, and was it overtime when Russ missed the wide open in the end zone? The guys are making it. I mean, it's on Russ, and it's just like Ron Rivera said in Washington, it's the quarterback. Like, if your team's not, it comes down to the quarterback play pretty much. And he shit all over Carson Wentz because of his performance the last couple of weeks. But any other injuries that, there was a cut, like, what's his name from the Patriots got hurt? Damian Harris got hurt, right?
He got hurt, and he was actually starting for me. I'm gonna go ahead and just say it. I sat Breece Hall. 29 points. I still won.
I'm trying to trade for him in all my leagues right now.
I still won because I did not sit Gabe Davis, Zane. I did not sit Gabe Davis, and I obviously have Josh Allen as my quarterback. So they saved me this week. Otherwise, Harris was out. Jamal Williams didn't do shit. That Patriots-Lions game, just disappointing for me in fantasy. I was hoping Damian Harris would have, at least a rushing touchdown, maybe catch some passes out of the backfield, maybe like a 60-yard rushing, maybe a 30, 40-yard, receiving type of day, maybe add a touchdown for me. He ended up going out. It's a hamstring, I believe, and he's going to be out for a few weeks. But, I was just very disappointing in that game as well. Damian Harris is. I'm looking for running backs. I know that. Like I'm looking for running backs this week. With him being out, I do have Breece Hall. That like I said,
that's huge, man.
Love
You
him.
could try
And
to trade him in your league. I'm just saying, you could get. There's people because he's on the come up, and there's a huge overpay for him right now. And I saw somebody offer. I also read about CMC and like and somebody else for Breece Hall and Ken Walker, and they did the deal. And I just was like, really? And it was more about the end of the year than where they are now. With CMC and how they look in Carolina. It was pretty interesting. And the more I thought about it, and then I heard another trade proposal on another podcast, and I was like, wow, that sounds pretty similar. And it made sense the more you kind of drilled it down. Because there's some young guys that are going to get opportunities that you're seeing that momentum shift with all these goddamn with the guys dropping like flies, But speaking of injuries, Ryan Robinson coming back from an injury was great to see. He didn't have many carries and he didn't have many yards, but he still had more carries than Gibson, I think I read, and that's a good sign for Brian Robinson fans. But just for the story and seeing him come back, it was just that was great to see.
Yeah, and Washington running backs, they've been doing pretty decent. I think there was an off game there by Antonio Gibson. He's been doing a solid job. I mean, he's a solid running back in his own right. But you're right, to see Robinson come back from that just horrible incident, just a terrible, incident that happened. I'm glad, nothing, extensive happened. Honestly, he's blessed because it went through his knee, I believe. Like it went right, like it was in an area where it was like, wow, like you're lucky to be playing, NFL football, at any point, with that being happened. So I'm happy for him to be out there. If you haven't picked him up in fantasy, go ahead and do so. He should he should add to that Washington football. I keep saying Washington Commanders.
We were talking about before they get
about
the Guardians.
Yeah, exactly. See, like I mentioned before, the Guardians is harder for me to remember than going from the Redskins to the Washington football team.
Yeah.
To the Commanders. Even now with that slip up, I still Guardians. Okay. But anyway, I just going back to it. I think that if anything happens with, let's say if for some reason you don't trust Antonio Gibson anymore, I think Brian Robinson is going to be a perfect fit.
Oh yeah, he out-touched Robinson. Yeah. He out-touched him in the first day back. Coming back from getting shot. It's like I think I almost did it. Thanks. The Commanders. I think they kind of know what's going on. I think they got it figured out. Before that even happened, we wouldn't be having this conversation because Brian Robinson, I think, would be off and running with the job as the RB1 there in Washington. There's
no doubt. Go ahead. Finish.
I was just going to say, just to touch on this, the last couple of injuries, Darren Waller was banged up with a hamstring. Got to keep an eye on that. Logan Thomas limited in practice on Monday with a calf injury. Tua still groggy with the whole, the whole concussion. And you're going to see guys, you saw that with Naheem Hines on Thursday night. That hurt me heavy because of I had drafted him with my last pick in a bunch of leagues, and him going out with that concussion. Yeah,
it was such a weird hit.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I'm sure he jarred his neck some way, somehow. I mean, obviously, if you've seen it, but it was just I thought it was more. I thought it was more spinal, the way he got.
Yeah, I could see why he said it.
Him going to the ground might have been what knocked him out, ultimately. But let's go ahead and get into our studs and duds for the week. I don't know. You want to kick it off? Should I kick it off?
Well, just speaking of duds and injuries, because if you started T. Higgins or you started Amon-Ra St. Brown, you guys got screwed because they, granted they were limited going in.
Yeah.
So if you had to start, granted it wasn't even a bye week last week. So if you needed to, and you're banking on these guys, that's just a shitty position to be in. Either you're dealing with too many injuries or you just didn't draft well. These are also pretty good players. So it's not that you didn't draft well. They're just dealing with some shitty injuries. I'm just going to shut the fuck up.
Jason thinks you're in 3D. Are you in space?
Am I? Hello, I'm in space. No, I don't know. I didn't do anything different. It's Claudio's internet. It's got it all. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Those are real books back there. That's what it is.
They are. I can't grab the other books. There's a light on it that I always grab. Shit.
So let's go ahead. You started.
No, just those two guys. They were duds on the week just because people started them and expected them to perform. But I also think it's a good segue because they were also injured. And you got to be leery. That's why making sure you check wherever you get your fantasy information day of game, whether it's Fantasy Pros or on the Sleeper app or ESPN or one of the other websites that are giving you live content, Sunday morning. You got to figure that shit out because it's also like watching for kickers in the weather now. You got to pay attention to that stuff. That really matters if you have kickers or leagues where kickers score a lot of points. But that gets back down to studs and duds, right? I mean, if a kicker doesn't, he's got winter weather and it sucks, he's a dud for you, and you're not going to get any points there in a league that you might get 15 points out of a kicker, which is pretty sweet if that's how your league operates. But who do you have for studs to start off with week 5?
Well, speaking of kickers, Nick Folk, 18 points.
Oh, shit. Nice. Look at that. See how we do?
Folk,
I like that.
Points from the for the New England Patriots. It was a weird game against I thought Detroit was going to put up some points. Like they were the number one offense going into the thing, but going up to New England, Bill Belichick just kind of solved that equation real quick, and that was it for the Detroit Lions up in New England. But Nick Folk added 18 points, so he's a stud for me. Another stud, I'm just going to, like I said, I sat him, Breece Hall. Breece Hall, he's just consistently gotten better, more touches each and every week. This was the big boom week, right? Almost reached 30 points in some leagues. I was expecting something. I was expecting consistency. Wasn't expecting a big, a big boom like out of him just because you have a Michael Carter there too.
27.7 points in the PPR format. Yeah, that's a
right. And Michael
big
Carter's
fucking day.
Michael Carter's added his points too. So I'm thinking they're going to split a lot more. But Breece Hall is quickly becoming the feature back for the New York Jets.
He had 2 touchdowns in the red zone. Michael
2 touchdowns. Carter. He could catch. He could run. I mean, he could run. He could catch. He could probably fucking throw the ball if you give him a chance. So I'm loving Breece Hall as my stud. I'm going to go with him and Nick Folk this week.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to go, for a stud, it's a kind of a surprise, maybe a little bit of a homer, but I'm going to say more of a, how do I say this? I love what I saw on Sunday out of Justin Fields, fantasy speaking. If you are a guy that has him in like a dynasty format and you're just clinging on to any hope that he's going to turn the field, last week was that opportunity to be like, all right, he outdid his projection. I think he had like 17.5 points. I mean, he didn't get you monster points. Not saying he's a stud, but it's just as a Bears fan, I was just happy. Like, there aren't many Bears players you pull for fantasy. Obviously Monty, you can drop Khalil Herbert after all the fucking hoopla and all the money spent on him. Go ahead and just fucking drop him because Eberflus showed you guys, ultimately what time it is here in Chicago with respect to who's going to be getting the majority of the carries right now because Demo's the guy. But excuse me. But yeah, I thought Justin was great to see. But just on the quarterback tip, Josh Allen, the half that he had, he just put up fucking huge numbers, had a monster day in a blowout, 35.2 fantasy points, depending on how your league slices it, beat up on a Steelers defense, 2 huge. Like if you have like bonuses for deep passes, he had 2 over 60 yards. If you started Gabe Davis, you were pumped too, like you talked about. And, not a quarterback, but a tight end, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Taysom Hill over 40 points. And he got most of his with the rushing yards.
Yeah,
so
didn't throw one pass.
Didn't throw one pass.
Nope.
Got most of his from rushing. Did he catch another one? I believe he
caught
34 points. Caught another one.
Fantasy points. Yeah, he had 9 rushing attempts, 3 going for scores, and a single pass attempt. Oh, he did throw a pass. I apologize.
He threw a touchdown pass, right?
Yeah, my apologies.
Okay, yeah, he threw a touchdown pass. I thought he had received the touchdown pass.
That's what I thought I read too. So I apologize for that.
No, it's okay.
I thought fucking Kelsey with 4 touchdowns and under. I had him in over on yardage last night, and I was like all pumped when I saw he had 4 touchdowns. And I'm like, that didn't hit. What the fuck?
No, and speaking of like guys like Gabe Davis, we were talking about Gabe Davis last week just because it wasn't
32 points.
After the ankle, you weren't sure. You were guessing pretty much like, hey, is this guy gonna fall off? Am I gonna have to trade him? Should I put him on the block? I mean, he's one of the favorite targets. Like other than like I never seen a offense that could just, but it's so explosive, right? Like you got 2 horses in Gabe Davis and in Stephon Diggs. I couldn't think of his name right off the top, but Stephon Diggs that could just go over the top, that could outrun the defense.
McKenzie?
Yeah,
But he was out.
and
McKenzie was out.
McKenzie got hurt, but McKenzie's been adding. He's been a factor as well. But that receiving core for the Bills, they're just go go go. Gabe Davis 98-yard touchdown pass to start the game for the Bills, start the scoring. I was very, very skeptical of Gabe Davis going into this week.
Oh, yeah.
But it looks like he's healthy. It looks like the Bills still trust him. It looks like he's not going to, slow down anytime soon, especially if Josh Allen is delivering the ball the way he is. Did you see the replays that they were showing? Look at the flick. It's just a flick. It's going 70 yards. You know what I'm saying? It's a flick of his wrist and it's going 70 yards. So as long as you got that, combination of receivers and quarterback, the Bills wide receivers and Gabe Davis are a high honor for me, or regards for me.
No, I agree. And I just want to add one more stud to the list because I think it speaks to your point of being back and seeing guys that, are coming back from an injury and performing well and getting what you expect out of them. And I think that's Raheem Mostert in Miami. He definitely seems to have taken over for Chase Edmonds. We talked about him last week in terms of trying to get him off the waiver wire. It might have been 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to remember. But he definitely outperformed him. He had just under 20 fantasy points on the day. 122 total yards and a touchdown. So it's great to see. And I think he's a guy you could start trusting in your lineup with, I don't think he's matchup dependent anymore. I think he's a guy that's going to be getting the majority of the carries there in Miami in that offense. When Tua comes back, when he is healthy, that's only going to be better for you as you make that playoff push towards the end of the season here. As we're moving towards halfway point of the NFL season, which is like 3/4 of a fantasy season. So,
right. Yeah.
So what do you got for duds? Let's get through a couple of duds so we can get on to some.
You're going to kick off the duds because I'm looking up a Gabe Davis stat because it's a good point that Zane brings up, only 3 yards, but he's been consistent throughout the year except for that injury, and then he had those 2 weeks where it was questionable. That's where I was like, man, I don't know, is Gabe Davis going to be back to form? But maybe it's just a blip. Maybe it is just a blip. But I'm not going to go ahead and sell to Gabe Davis anymore after that performance this week. Watch him. If you still want to go ahead and try to sell high on him, maybe you'll get lucky, but I think it's better to keep him and see what happens, especially with that offense, like I mentioned.
All right.
Go duds.
Duds for me? Oh, all right, perfect. So I'm going to kind of, I'm going to repeat myself here. This is a guy that I told people to go out and get, and I was expecting him to continue to do well, and that's Trevor Lawrence. He was a big dud for me this past week. Going against the 14th ranked passing defense with respects to the Texans and put up just a miserable 10 fantasy points. So he was a big dud for me. He may bounce back this week coming up, but I was shocked. I honestly expected him I started him in a couple of leagues and I paid for it. I talked about St. Brown and Higgins already as some duds. And a guy that I was surprised by was Khalil Herbert too, but then again, we learned, I think that the way it's going to go is going to be a much bigger Demo than Herbert split right now. And like Logan said, until Monty gets hurt again, true. But I don't know in terms of trying to win games right now. I don't know if you can afford to sit Herbert on the bench on your roster. It may be a guy that you out there that you could get now that would benefit your lineup, give you more immediate dividends or returns. So those are a couple of duds that I had. What about you?
Well, for me, it was going to be Demo, but you had took Demo from me. So I'm going to go with Mike Evans. I'm going to go with Mike Evans. Mike Evans only had 12 points.
Demo as a dud?
No. I was going to go with Demo as a dud. I mean, he had a touchdown, but it was like you were expecting. I was expecting a big game from him.
He had almost 20 fantasy points. He had 18 something.
Did he? I thought.
Yeah. You talk about Montgomery, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, he had 18.
Who's the other Demo?
I think he had I was making sure I heard you correct. No, but I think he had 18.8 points. I saw in one of my leagues. It was a full PPR point. If you have it at your fingertips, I do not have.
I did have 18 points. The rushing he didn't do it. He had the touchdown.
Yeah, he had the touchdown definitely bolstered.
He had 62 yards. In the rushing department, he didn't do good, but he added 18 points for you. Decent. I would have took that over the 5 points Damian Harris gave me and the 6 points Jamal Williams gave me. So, yeah, maybe I should just wait. I'm not going to sit him, though, but maybe I should just shut the fuck up about Demo because he just had 18 points. But
it's okay. Hey,
anyway,
players fuck up. Players fuck
anyway,
up.
Mike Evans, like I said, Evans.
That's a good call, man.
He didn't,
especially with the way Brady played, right? Like the way that,
yeah, especially the way the Bucks played, the way that Brady played. I expect it to continue. Like I expect him to bust out of it, but he's been very hit or miss this year. I don't know whether that's because of the whole Giselle thing and Tom's in his own head or what, but it's been hit or miss with me and Mike Evans. I don't know.
Tough one.
It is very tough for me. And then, I would say anybody in the Jacksonville offense, like look at that team. Like you had 6 points
Especially
total
against
the Houston Texans. I told everybody last week to start the Jaguars backfield.
Yeah, you did.
You just had nothing. Like you had nothing out of there. So
crapshoot part, right? Like you think it's gonna hit, and
they're looking good. Like they're looking so consistent. Like they gave the Eagles a go. They gave the Eagles a go, and then all of a sudden you got the Lovey, powder puff defense that you think it is, and you can't even put up 10 points against them. Regardless of where it was, you should have been able to put up points against that team. Huge disappointment. So I would go with just anybody on Jacksonville. Anybody you had on Jacksonville is a disappointment.
I got another one for you. Former Bear. Fucking biggest probably bust is Allen Robinson. I mean, cutting his fucking ass. Every week. Dude, if he's on your roster, I don't know why. Like, stop listening to this show because, this is a dude that, he is not for fantasy at this point. He's not even for the fucking Rams roster. He stinks. That dude is awful. I can't even get over that. That guy's just straight stealing money. But what are you going to do? Hey, $46.5 million for that fucking guy. And you got Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee just completely getting all of the shares there. And you would expect Robinson to do it. And that may be part of the reason why they're not, they thought Odell or losing Odell and bringing in Allen Robinson was going to be the move. And it's clearly not playing out that way. And now Odell's getting ready to come back in a few weeks. And I'm curious to see where he lands. And we could talk about that later.
I don't know how they solved that. I don't know how Allen Robinson. I would have gone off of Allen Robinson a week ago. Like if I were fantasy, I would try to trade him for something, but I would just stay. Maybe bench him. Maybe just leave him on the bench. Maybe
Ivan.
Maybe it's just a rhythm thing. I don't know, but the Rams don't look good as a team at all.
True. That's a good point.
The
also,
Rams don't look good as a team at all.
I think Stafford's hurt.
Stafford looks hurt. It could be a whole litany of things. It could be a litany of things, but you know what? It's just Allen Robinson from the jump. Rashad called it too. CK, he just no separation. He looks slow. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't look like it's working out to thus far for Allen Robinson. Week after week, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Part of the reason why I don't start, I have Stafford in a dynasty league, just as like my old OG QB, and I can't play him because partially, like Logan said, you have Allen Robinson out there. You have Cooper Kupp, but he can't get it done by himself anymore. It's just the way, and you can scheme for that type of shit in the NFL, and it's showing. So
another big bust, and I forgot to mention.
Go ahead, bring him up.
It was a number one, and I had it. I was trying to think about it. I should have just scrolled right up to the top. Hawkinson, TJ Hawkinson, and that Lion. Like I said, the Lions team as well was another. If you started Lions this week, like I did, and obviously like Cool Kennedy did, you are hurting right now. Yeah. I won the game.
They're getting their soldiers back, man.
I still won, but I was very, very nervous up until the point there where I didn't have to be nervous anymore. But yeah, TJ Hawkinson, another big bust. Just Lions laying an egg up in New England. Just disappointing. Okay. And Joku's had a decent year this year. I haven't been Njoku. Yeah.
I traded for him in one of my leagues this week.
He ended up 6 this week with 14 points. And he's been pretty consistent. I gotta let me see if I can find.
I actually traded Gabe. Now that I think about it, I traded Gabe Davis for him. That's a fucking great trade in hindsight. Jesus Christ. Well, all right, that didn't work out in my favor. I did win though, but I can't complain. I mean, Njoku helped me get the W. But yeah, no, Cherie, I'm with you. I need Swift to come back in a couple of leagues. I'm hoping, sitting him out hopefully helped, and they didn't rush him back. Gave him that extra week's rest, and that'll get him out there and hopefully give him some longevity because he seems to always have some banged up shoulders as we move forward. But
I I want to go ahead and jump into a quick waiver. Let's
Yeah,
just
dude.
go into the waiver wire.
I like that
because there's, you had mentioned somebody earlier in the show, Taysom Hill, right? Everybody and their mom is going to be trying to go after Taysom Hill. I feel like I think there's going to be a little bit. He's added some points. I mean,
he's a tight end anomaly.
I'm gonna go look up what he's had in our TTNL league. But what do you think the price tag is on a guy like Taysom Hill going into this week? It was, like I said, heavy run, but he can pass, and you got him slotted as a tight end. But he's doing three different things. He could score in three different ways for you, and each way can be big. If whether he busts off a 40-yard run or he throws for a 30, 40-yard pass to somebody, or he catches a 50-yard bomb from whoever's playing quarterback. What do you think the price tag is on a guy like Taysom Hill going into this week?
Well, I mean, I think just based on what you look at around the league for tight ends and the value, he's a guy in a PPR format. He's not a target monster, but he's still a top 8 in fantasy points for tight ends. He has some value. I think this week though, he's in standard formats, he's a top 3 tight end. Which is pretty interesting. I see Taysom Hill just being a guy that is going to be a candidate to sell high if you have him. He's a guy that I think you could take advantage right now, strike while the iron's hot with him, and try to fill a roster spot or two with a guy like that where you may be able to get a starter and a bench guy if you throw in another guy along with Hill to kind of even out the trade. I think to me, I get nervous with these boomer bust Hill, because he has like 60 fantasy points and he got half of them in one week, so
right.
He
had 16 points in week 1, and then it was very quiet for the next 3 weeks up until this 40-point boom.
So to that point, I don't see the value being extremely high, but I think it's more of a guy that someone's going to overpay in fab. And then I think you're also going to get someone to overpay because the tight end desperation, because, Kyle Pitts isn't playing well. Some of the other tight ends necessarily haven't done what you thought they were going to do. Only makes a guy like that more valuable in that type of scenario, in my opinion. What about you? What do you think?
I'm thinking if I make a run at him, I'm not spending a lot of money. Like, I'm not spending a lot of FOB at all. It's just too risky. It's too hit or miss. He could do it against teams like the Seahawks and teams like the Falcons. But, when it comes to these tougher teams, I expect much of the same as we got from the Bucks, much of the same as we got from what was the other team? The Vikings. He didn't even register anything against the Panthers. So, it was, like I said, hit or miss. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to spend more than like $10, if that. I'm desperate, if I'm desperate for at tight ends, just because it's a 2 boomer bust for me. So I'm going to go with maybe $10 if you're hurting for tight ends, but he's just going to be on the bench for me. Like that's kind of how I see him. If he has a good matchup against a shit team, shit defense, go ahead and start him. But other than that, that's where I see him.
Is he available in your sleeper league?
He is available in my sleeper league.
Is he? He is in mine also. I was just looking.
Yeah, it says it looks like he's only owned in 24% of the leagues and started in 5%. Number 7 tight end.
Yeah,
in the league though right now.
Yeah, for PPR.
Yeah. What up, Bullets?
Bullets in the building. All right. So, as we talk about the waiver wire, obviously that's a tight end that you like. Who else do you like going into week 6? Give me your next waiver claim here that you're going to go after.
If he's out there, if he's out there, it'll be 2 guys. I mean, you should look for DJ Dallas and Kenneth Walker. If they're out there, if you didn't go ahead and stash Kenneth Walker before, or if he's still available in your league, I'd go after him first. But I think DJ Dallas might, to start, get a few more touches. It all depends on how the Seahawks, play it. Kenneth Walker is a younger back, a solid back. I think he's going to have a pretty good career with the Seahawks. I mean, he's young, he's fast. They like guys that hammer the football. Obviously, you saw the success they had with Marshawn Lynch. Maybe one of those two guys, DJ Dallas or a Kenneth Walker, would be.
Yeah, Walker had 8 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown for just under 15 points. I mean, and DJ Dallas was the passing option there. So, to your point, the Seattle with Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I think there's some weapons there, and Geno's turning into that QB1 and a must start instead of a streamer or just a matchup guy. He has really demonstrated. We've been high on him here on this program. We've definitely been talking about him. I know that was going to be Claudio's waiver wire, and I was like, well, I think I might have started, and then you brought him up last week, and then I'm like, we can't have him on our list for 3 weeks in a row. Like, I'm hoping everybody that listens have picked them up at this point. But there are some quarterbacks, if you are streaming, that you're looking to get some guys. There's that old, we fired our head coach, let's win one for the new guy, PJ Walker.
Can I say this? If you haven't picked up Geno, go pick up Geno. All right, just get it out of the fucking way. Go pick up Geno.
All right, for Claudio, pick up fucking Geno. Because we said so. No,
go ahead, PJ Walker.
PJ Walker, man. I think it's. I still can't believe Geno Smith's only rostered in 56% of the fucking leagues. You're an asshole for saying that, by the way, because now I'm looking at his stats and I'm just like, he's thrown for over 1,300 yards already. He's got 10 touchdowns on 2 interceptions, averaging just under 24 fantasy points. I mean, how could you not start that guy every week? And it's not matchup dependent. I mean, he did 24 points against a pretty solid defense last week. To your point, go get Geno.
Go get Geno.
But PJ Walker, back to my original point. If you're desperate and you're in a deep league and you're trying to find a quarterback because you're dealing with you had Carson Wentz or some fucking bum, you didn't pick up Geno Smith when you should have. You got PJ Walker, going against, he's going against the Rams, who are not playing themselves. It is an away game for them, but then again, I think when you play in LA, it's a home game too for the away team. In a weird way, he's not even going to cost you any money. You could just go out and not even put a waiver claim on him, but he's a dude that you could just go grab. Another another quarterback. Jesus, what am I thinking? Justin Fields. Everybody dropped him. Scoop him up.
I was going to mention it. I was mentioning him coming up. But
rostered in 33% of your leagues out there. Like I said earlier, 17 fantasy points. It was projected for much less. He's a guy that I think hopefully they open it up a little more with him, and you just start seeing that momentum for him as well as that offense. And I mean, granted, they're playing on Thursday night against the Commanders. Isn't a great matchup just because I'm not a fan of Thursday night fantasy starts. But it's the Commanders. I think it could be one of those weird games where Justin goes out and puts up a number and the Bears, put up some points on the board. But yeah, he's another guy that you could go out and get, and it probably cost you a couple bucks. Is he worth a waiver claim? Depending on how desperate you are at your quarterback position. But Dak's coming back too. So he's a guy, people are kind of getting some quarterbacks back as some of the shittier quarterbacks are now getting, through attrition, like Baker got hurt, but he was awful anyway. You're not starting him. Yeah. But PJ Walker is back to my original point with the waiver. He's a sneaky sleeper right now. I think DJ Moore may actually breathe a sigh of relief if all goes well in Carolina for him. And let's win one for the new coach that brought in Josh Rosen that drafted Josh Rosen in Arizona.
Yeah. Well, the Josh Rosen experiment obviously didn't go as planned, and neither is the Baker Mayfield, but the PJ Walker. Yeah, PJ Walker, I think he could be an efficient guy. I don't think he's going to go out and win games for Carolina. I don't think Carolina wants to win games anymore anyway. But as far as being efficient, and if you need a guy in a pinch, if you're hurting,
bye weeks, right? Yeah, we talked about that earlier,
Walker,
right?
PJ Walker would be a guy, matchup-wise, if he has the right matchup, that maybe you could pick up and maybe you could find some gold with. Justin, though, I think Justin he was the fourth, other than maybe PJ Walker passed it 5 times, 6 times, completed 5. So out of the next 4, because those guys completed threw over 20 times in their games, right? Yeah, Bailey Zappi, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Fields, all with over 70% completion percentage. Yeah. I think, we've been talking about it. We talk about the good and the bad with Justin Fields. A lot of people have dropped him. He's only in 38% of the leagues. If he can continue to show confidence, the confidence that he showed last week, the ability to hit open guys able to go ahead and make plays for him when he needs them to, maybe Justin Fields could be a guy you could stash and not only go ahead and just kind of float. You could keep in your on your bench and maybe play matchup wise. Maybe he goes ahead and beat somebody big down the line.
Okay.
Puts up a big number in 1 week. I could see the progression coming with Justin Fields. It's not going to happen, in the next 3-4 weeks, but I could see him having big games coming up here in the near future as the season progresses. Might be a good stash for your bench.
Absolutely. And just speaking of upcoming weeks, this is our week 6 bye-week start. We're going to talk about that. I didn't know we were going to squeeze that in, but we got the Lions, we have the Raiders, the Titans, and the Texans are all on byes this week. So make sure you're checking your rosters. You probably didn't. No, I'm just kidding. It's late Tuesday night. I'm sure you have, but just double check to make sure. And look forward to the next 4 or 5 weeks too, because you got to start paying attention to that stuff. There's guys that are coming back off a pup that may want to stash now. And I don't know, Ivan, if you got a guy, but I wanted to bring up Jameson Williams for Detroit. I think he's a guy that you can go. He's getting ready. I think now's the time you got to try to go grab him. I don't think you have to overpay. Depending, I didn't want to bring him up today because I want to try to get him in a couple of my leagues tonight. But I feel that he's a guy you could stash in that offense. I know Amon-Ra St. Brown's coming back, but I just I don't know. I think they were expecting things for him when they drafted him. They've been really patient with him coming back from the injury. From all accounts that I was reading about over the last couple of days, it sounds like he's going to hit the ground running in Detroit. And that just, I think with Goff and how things are clicking over there with Swift coming back, that's a nice trio of weapons. And I think you could do some things over there. Just that's a little sneaky. I brought up Gus Edwards a couple of weeks ago. He's coming off the pup list. And Dobbins didn't look good last week. So what does that mean? Does that mean Gus Edwards comes in and maybe gets you? So, there's something to be said about trying to stash guys early. And I think Jameson is one of those dudes.
Yeah, I agree. I hope he comes back with a vengeance because he's an exciting player. You know what I'm saying? He'll definitely help out Detroit, definitely help out fantasy users if you have him on, stashed up on your bench, or if he's out there floating and you could go ahead and grab him. I would suggest that you do. Let's go into our start and sits. Do you want to start it off or shall I?
Well, are there any other waiver guy? I mean, we brought up a couple.
I mean, if you want to go ahead and add a couple more, go ahead. I'm on the starts and sits, but go ahead.
I got you. I'm just thinking, wide receivers we talked about. If you didn't pick up Mike Boone yet, especially with what's going on in Denver, we talked about it earlier. If you are desperate, I think Boone's going to end up being the guy in Denver for the rest of the year. Pierre Strong in New England because of what's happening with our boy Damian Harris. He's another guy to think about. And Pierre Strong's roster in only 2% of the league, so I don't think he's going to cost you anything. We brought up Jalen Warren, Gus Edwards. I'm just if you twist in my arm, I'll say Khalil Shakir. Yeah, Mr. Waldman's boy. Yeah,
you had Isaiah. You had not Isaiah Williams. You had we got what's it the receiver McKenzie, Isaiah McKenzie.
Yep.
I was saying Isaiah Williams for some reason. Isaiah McKenzie went out, and Khalil Shakir ended up catching a touchdown pass from. I mean, who isn't catching a touchdown pass from Josh Allen? You know what I'm saying? So he ended up catching a touchdown pass from Josh Allen that week. So he might be a guy if that injury lingers with my guy Isaiah McKenzie. I almost forgot it again. My guy Isaiah McKenzie, if it lingers, he might be a guy that you could pick up and he could do something for you, help you out.
And I just wanted to add, just to talk about that, we brought up injuries with receivers, right? We had Tyreek Hill bang, with a little foot issue.
Mm-hmm.
You had T. Higgins, Michael Thomas toe, Keenan Allen out again with the hammy, Chris Olave concussion. Hopefully he comes back this week. Drake London with the knee, Jarvis Landry, Treylon Burks. And I think that's pretty much that's it. And DJ Shark, in Detroit. But yeah, there's plenty of injuries all around. We talk about the running backs all the time, but there's definitely tons of wide receivers that are hurting. So go get yourself George Pickens, if you haven't, or like Michael Gallup, those guys out there that are, Jacoby Myers is another guy who I scooped him up in 2 leagues, started him in one, sat him in another. And I wish I started him in both because it cost me, because I lost by like 6 points and I would have got a win if I actually trusted, actually believed in my decision. Yeah. And another guy, real last one, a TTNL favorite, Alec Pierce, and in Indy. I think he's a guy who is getting the opportunity, and he's making the most of it right now. He's a wide receiver 33, and that's a pretty good thing, I think. And he's rostered in like 14% of the leagues. Not going to cost you a lot of money in fab, and he may be worth a waiver claim. So
I think the Colts scare away people with him.
Yeah,
I think the team as a whole scares away.
True.
And I thought, and I was sitting here thinking that offense was going to be a little bit more potent than it is. Alec Pierce has been a guy that's been reliable. I mean, Matt Ryan's been finding him as of late. So I think you're absolutely right. I like that pick. If Alex Pierce is available, go ahead and pick him up. He wouldn't hurt. He's going to be their features receiver sooner or later. I mean, that's what they got. That's what they drafted him, I feel like, to be, at least till a certain point. I mean, he's going to be a huge part of that offense. So, yeah, moving forward, Alec Pierce is a great pick.
Okay. So what do you do, some starts and sits?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Kick it off.
And if you haven't picked up your boy Shakir, I think you should scoop him up too, just to add. You brought him up. I think that's an awesome pick. I love that. I don't know why. I'm just repeating what you said. I just think that was a great pickup. That's not my start. That's not a start. That's just my last waiver. I thought that was such a great.
Sign everybody. No, I'm just good.
I'm going. I was checking all the boxes on those lists. Sorry, guys. It was rapid fire. But hey, I went first. I want you to go first with starts and sits. You kick it off here with the starts and sits.
Okay, honestly, I'm going to start the San Francisco defense. I actually have them starting. I like picking defense. I like going outside the box just because it's like, hey, man, it's a slot that you have to fill. So if you have San Francisco, how you doing? If you have San Francisco, go ahead and start them. They're playing the Atlanta Falcons. Even though it is an away game, I think San Francisco is going to continue to put up points. Had a big game last week with them. Added a bunch of points. Just trying to get the total here. They were the third defensive team. Added 15 points last week. I would go ahead and start them. Another team that I'm thinking that I would go ahead and start is probably going to be the Seahawks, and I'm going to go with Geno. I don't think the Cardinals are going to put up that much. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I don't think their defense is going to, slow down the Seahawks a bunch. But I would start Geno. He's just being consistent, like you mentioned, over 1,300 yards so far in the season. He's more consistent than Russell Wilson. The Seahawks are putting up points. They look comfortable. Their offense doesn't look broken. They do lose Rashad Penny, but they have a couple young running backs waiting to get their turn to be the feature back, or at least attempt to be a huge part of this team moving forward. I would go with Geno Smith. I think he's going to continue to roll this week. A game to keep an eye on though is Buffalo and Kansas City. The Bills and the Chiefs. Obviously, when you hear those two teams, you think fantasy points galore. And they're playing each other this week. And, I mean, although the Bills' defense is very good, the Kansas City defense, to me, is still spotty. I mean, they have – Jones is just amazing. Like, let me not get into that BS call that happened Monday night. Jones is just amazing. But, like, there's still holes in that Kansas City secondary that I think can be exploited by the Buffalo Bills. But a ton of points coming from that game. Just heads up if anybody's – looking to start people, or maybe even, like you said, Khalil Shakir. Yeah.
Okay. Who else do you like?
I had just those two guys right now.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
go ahead. I'll think of
No.
somebody else, in a second. But yeah, just those two right off the top of my head.
So I'm gonna just go with a couple of starts that you went with last week that I think may come through for us this week, and that's the Jacksonville running backs. I think looking at Robinson and Etienne Jr. just playing against that Colts defense, they gave up numbers to the Broncos defense, the Broncos running back room, and I think Jacksonville's a little better than that. I think they got the right coach for the job in Peterson. I think what they're going to do is put together a game plan against Indy, and you're going to see both of those guys get some touches. I think there's going to be some points scored in that game, and I think it's going to come out of this backfield with a very, very not only familiar matchup, but just a matchup that seems to be in their favor. So I'm going to go with those two guys as both of them as starts if you have one of them in your lineup. And then on the other side of that, for like a running back that if you're thinking about starting, don't. And that's going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's kind of on that downward trend as he was showing for the first 4 weeks. Dude, oh, wow. If you drafted him and had him, you were happy. He's coming back down to earth, which is what everybody was talking about coming into the season. Going up against Buffalo. He is at home. But still, it's just hard to trust him right now with McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco, who I think could end up being the number one back. He's a guy that you should go out and get as a waiver wire pickup also.
I think I like Pacheco. He scares me because he's been up, like picked up and dropped like 3 or 4 times. And I'm sitting here, I'm
it's
just
that Chiefs
waiting.
A little too, right? Like
I'm like waiting for this breakout because you're waiting for a Chiefs running back, and I think it was mentioned up here before. I think Zane had mentioned it before.
Yep.
You're waiting for one of these Chiefs running back to do. It's like you're poking them with the stick. That means like do something, be somebody.
Yeah.
And they never really pan out. I mean,
Pacheco looks fast. He looked good though. And he had some fantasy numbers. I think he's a guy that
Edwards-Helaire just needs to turn his head when he's trying to, when it's a slip, a slip out of the backfield. Turn your head, look for the ball. Like you're the outlet. Like you're the outlet. You're like the, boom right away, and you're 10 yards downfield with your head looking forward and the ball hitting you on the side of the helmet.
Yeah.
Just frustrating. I mean, he did add a touchdown, but the consistency with the running backs for the Chiefs is just frustrating.
Was it you or Claudio, and it might have been you, last week or 2 weeks ago that was talking about Tony Pollard?
I was talking about Tony Pollard.
So
it could have been. I think Claudio had mentioned him, but I think we were talking about Tony Pollard last week and the Cowboys, like Ezekiel Elliott being a pretty much a nothing.
Yeah, he's a lame duck dude, right?
Yeah, lame duck in fantasy.
I think he is going to that point, and that's the reason I bring him up is like, do not start. I think he's no longer a start for you in fantasy, Ezekiel Elliott. I just think he's a guy you're looking to sit going up against Philly, and Pollard just looks better, doesn't he? I mean, he just looks the part, and and I don't want to repeat what you said last week, but I just think that was an excellent point, and you're seeing it come to fruition in another week. So kudos for you to just be hitting that one out of the park, man.
If you look at Ezekiel Elliott, I just had Tony Pollard added 14 points. Where was Zeke at? I know it was like 4. Zeke, 7. Zeke added 7. So
okay,
he had 78 rushing yards, no touchdowns, didn't catch anything out of the backfield. So it's like, I mean, 78 yards is nice, but that only adds up to 7 points in fantasy. Like you got to get into the end zone, and I think that they, with Tony Pollard and his ability, I
he started so well too.
I think they just trust him more. I think they just trust Tony a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's what you're seeing, a shift in that, in exactly that. That all right, it's a changing of a subtle changing of the guard, right?
Yeah.
And not so subtle in terms of production. I mean, it speaks volumes.
And it's not to say that Zeke can't have like a 3 touchdown game and all of a sudden, boom, you have a Gabe Davis type of performance and you're back. Maybe the next couple of weeks you're back. You had a touchdown. Not saying that. It's just to this point, he hasn't been consistent enough for me. Like I don't trust an Ezekiel Elliott.
No.
Don't trust.
I think Pollard's is way too explosive. He's just been trending, to your point last week and again this week. I think it's a good, not a great matchup for Tony Pollard, but he's going to be the guy that they're going to look to get the ball in his hands against Philly. If Dak comes back, I think you're going to see more Tony Pollard than you're going to see if Cooper Rush is behind under center. Just because, they're probably going to do, looking to hand the ball off a little more, not have Dak throw it as often, or if they're going to be fucking Jerry Jones in it and throwing it 65 times, and who knows, his thumb falls off. I don't fucking know.
I mean, I see if they get a lot of red zone opportunities, obviously they're going to be, Zeke's going to get his opportunity to get into the end zone this week. I feel like, but this one I feel like is going to be classic NFC East, low scoring, dogfight. I don't think they're going to be putting up a whole bunch of points in this one. Tony Pollard, like I said, I'm trusting Tony Pollard more than I am Ezekiel Elliott. So if I'm going to go ahead and say start a running back for Dallas, I'm going to go ahead and start Tony.
Okay.
Just to trust, man. I just think Zeke is like, yeah, like you said, there's a changing. It's just you're not that dude anymore. It's like you're not the number one guy. You're very like he's still good, but he's not getting the number one guy type
getting paid too. It's pretty crazy.
Getting paid. I gotta say that. But Tony Pollard is definitely the feature back in that game. Cowboys defense is pretty good. Like I want to stick with that game real quick. Cowboys defense is pretty good. Jalen Hurts. How do you feel about Jalen Hurts real quick going into that one? A lot of pressure by Parsons. He seems to be everywhere. Dallas's defense has stepped up as much as, you've seen Cooper Rush and the love for the offense. And
True.
Wow, Dallas's defense has done a solid job during that time that Dak has been out in order for them to be in the position that they're in. And, you gotta be expecting Jalen to be, obviously be mobile because there's going to be pressure. They're going to bring pressure. But is he going to be able to complete the passes downfield? Yeah. Are they going to be able to lock up the receivers for the Philadelphia Eagles? And so far, I don't really trust the running game of the Eagles. Other than Jalen Hurts. And
I like Philly this matchup though.
Like I don't know if I trust the running backs. I think Dallas could surprise you in this one. It's because of their defense. I think Jalen might have a step back this game.
He could. I mean, they're going against a formidable foe, but I almost like Devonta Smith as a start for you in fantasy this week. I think they're going to lock in on AJ Brown. I think that just means, I think Smith is going to eat a little more. And I think you are right. It should be a good test on paper and based on what we're seeing in terms of Dallas's defense. But I think this Philly team is, they're legit. I think they're real contenders. And this is just this could be this will be their stamp on that. I think as they walk out of week 6 with a big win at home against Dallas. I like that. I would start Devonta Smith if you could, just kind of staying with that game. And on the other side of that, are there any wide receivers or any guys that you would look to, anybody you look to sit?
Yeah, actually, I was just looking at Steelers wideouts. Like, I think we're gonna have to look.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett's a sit for me too. So good call.
Pickens, Kenny Pickett. Yeah,
Deontay Johnson.
They aren't a good team. I don't think I think Kenny Pickett is very young. Obviously, for some reason, the defense just forgot how to play defense. With TJ Watt going out, it's like I even said, I was like, man, I'm expecting them to just keep rolling on defensively at least, because you have playmakers on there. You got a Mika Fitzpatrick. You get you got a Hayward on the D line. You have solid linebackers. What is going on with the defense? I know TJ Watt is a great player, but he can't be the entire defense. Like that, it just can't be. Pittsburgh is just not a good football team whatsoever. I don't trust anything that they're, that they have this week. Receivers, running backs, quarterback, nothing coming out of Pittsburgh for me this week.
Okay. Not a bad call. I can't argue with you. Kenny Pickett was almost my sit. He was who I was going to bring up earlier. So you hit the nail on the head there. I wouldn't trust anybody right now. I just think the matchup, Tampa secondary, just that defense, they're granted they are at home. But I think the matchup going against touchdown Tommy, who's clicking right now on all cylinders on the passing game, and Goodwin back healthy. Mike Evans hopefully has a rebound, and they got some running backs there. They almost have an AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones type situation with Rashad White and Lenny Fournette. They got some good things over there in Tampa, and that just hurts our chances on the other side. But
no, go ahead.
I was just going to bring up a guy that we talked about, like in changing of the guard, in terms of changing the coach. I think DJ Moore could have a big game this weekend. Going against the Rams. Granted, is he going to see Jalen Ramsey? Or is that going to be, who else is that Robbie? Who else is going to be, getting his attention? But you may see DJ Moore actually put up some fantasy production points this weekend. Just with that whole new coach, we got to do something. We're playing for jobs. I want to try to stick around. So let's go out and ball. Just kind of always
really going on a limb.
Points. Really? Well, I think they're going to be down too, and they're going to have to throw.
That's true.
And so, I think you're going to get that game script towards the end of the season, the end of the game, where they're going to have to just try, PJ make some things happen. And if he's getting loose in the backfield, you never know what that means.
They're going to have to start that 5 minutes into the first quarter.
You're probably right. Which is good for fantasy owners if you're desperate. More probably a daily fantasy pick, but just something to think about, as you go ahead and peruse the waiver wire. Just fine with Tuesday night. Who is actually, I'll save it till the end. Never mind. But
no, another, and we didn't get to this one. We didn't, unless you did mention it, and I real quickly, and we just didn't talk in depth. Teddy Bridgewater, right?
I didn't know. Go ahead.
Teddy's got, he's questionable. He had an elbow and a concussion. He was in a concussion protocol last week.
Yeah.
Who's going to throw? Like you got Tua ain't coming in. He's not running through that tunnel anytime soon. And, after that whole debacle with the medical staff and the handling of Tua Tagovailoa, I don't think they're going to let Teddy go out there if he's any little inkling that he can't do it, that his mind's not right, or his focus isn't there, or however they run the test. He ain't going to go out. So who's going to throw to these Miami wide receivers? I think it might be, fair. I'm not going to say sit him because they are,
Skylar Thompson.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? Like Tyreek Hill, superstar. Jalen Waddle, about to be a superstar because I think he could do a lot of, he could do a lot of similar things that Tyreek could do. But who's going to throw to them this week? They're going up against the Vikings. You saw how the Vikings.
Thompson.
You saw the Vikings can give up a lot in the second half. The Vikings have trouble laying the hammer down on teams. So I'm just saying, I don't want to go ahead and I'll just just say beware. Just say just beware of these guys. Beware of who's throwing them the football. Skylar Thompson, you said? Maybe he's the next Cooper Rush. Who knows?
He had 19 for 33, threw for 166 yards, and he threw an interception and came in for Teddy. Did you know he's a 25-year-old rookie? He's older than Tua.
Fair warning, like I said, warning. Just
pick him up if you're trying to stream quarterbacks, Ivan. Going to those obscure picks, PJ Walker.
Maybe, maybe like I said, maybe they have one game in them, and Tyreek maybe busts out an 80-yard screen or something like that.
This guy goes out. Yeah, hey. Never know, but they have not named a starter yet. Mike McDaniels is. I was just looking it up while you're talking about it, and he is definitely mum on it. He obviously wants Tua back, but I don't know when he will come back. But yeah, if they could get Teddy back out there, they're obviously they'd like that, but they have to tread so lightly. They almost have to play Skylar Thompson, the 25-year-old rookie out of Kansas State. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll say this. I think the New York Giants are going to get knocked back down to earth. I would start.
Okay.
I would start. Obviously, Lamar's a superstar. If you're not starting Lamar, I would just say Lamar's going to have a really good day this week against the Giants. I think Lamar's going to show out in New York or New Jersey rather, and I think he's going to have a very, very big day. So, obviously he's a clear-cut start in any league, but just to emphasize, I think he's going to have a big game against the Giants this week. I think the Giants lay an egg against the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, I like Lamar. Obviously, he's a must start, but I still think Saquon's going to put in some work against them. I just think he's your RB1 in fantasy right now. Him and Eckler neck and neck. I mean, Eckler's had 2 back-to-back 30-point weeks, just putting up some monster fantasy points. Yeah, man. The Giants have no one to throw the ball to, and Daniel Jones still banged up. Granted, they came out and they beat fucking Green Bay. Surprise, surprise, fuck them. But it's nice to see how that ended, right?
It was.
Rodgers getting his shit pushed in, but
I mean, I didn't
smashed in by getting hit.
I didn't see that. I didn't see any of the shit pushing in happening.
I'm just saying that when he got smashed on the
they got their ass kicked. I'll say that they got whooped. They got surprised.
He got lit up, and it was beautiful.
Batted down twice at the line. That was something I was like, oh wow, you never see that with Rye. He usually changes his arm angle, squeaks it in, or something like that. The Giants did a great job of pressuring him and getting hands into throwing lanes. But yeah, screw the Packers. I'm glad they lost. I don't think the Giants defense is going to be able to handle Lamar. Make sure you start Lamar for sure next week.
Hey, speaking of, we got asked in the chat. It was, would you start the Bears defense or the Raven or the Washington defense if you had to pick? Just say the Bears.
I want to say the Bears, and I think I am going to just say the Bears. So I would start the Bears. I don't trust Carson Wentz. Yeah. I know Justin's learning, but I trust that Justin is going to make more plays with his legs like that he has been. He's going to continue to find, that comfort zone. I know who Carson Wentz is. He's the guy that's going to throw an interception at the goal line to lose the game. Like, that's Carson Wentz. So I would expect a lot of turnovers for the Bears. And maybe their biggest turnover output of the season for the Bears this year could come in this game. Just if they could get pressure on Wentz, which that's been a struggle this year with the Bears. But if they could get pressure on Wentz, Carson Wentz will make a mistake, and he could just serve up balls to you, all night. Go ahead and clip it if you want. But yeah, I think this could be a big game for the Bears defense.
Yeah,
coming up on Thursday.
Good call. I agree. I saw we had a couple in the chat. Jacksonville D or Baltimore D. Zane had brought that up earlier. But this one here from Logan. Mm-hmm. He's starting Eckler. I like Mostert, and I don't like Dobbins. I'm not high on Herbert. We talked about the Miles Sanders, right? So I still like Kareem Hunt. I'm a fan. Browns playing against New England, so I probably go Hunt, Mostert, and Eckler. Those three, in my opinion. What about you?
Hunt, Mostert, and Eckler?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I like
against New England. San Fran is playing I just had it. Atlanta. And Eckler's a must start. So.
I'm gonna go with Dobbins.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Dobbins. I didn't trust him against against Buffalo. But I think, as the weeks go on, he's been more and more contributing. Getting his feet wet, if you will. I'm going to go with Eckler, Dobbins. And yeah, Kareem Hunt. Herbert going into this week. No, I'm going to go with Hunt. I'll go with Hunt.
Okay.
Yeah, Eckler, Dobbins, and Hunt. I'm going to stay away from Herbert this week. I think Monty's going to get the majority of the carries. Maybe Khalil sneaks in a touchdown, but as far as output, I think Monty's going to be the guy.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you.
Any other questions?
No. I think you got to go out and get Eno Benjamin, too, if you can. You can go get him. I think James Conner, a little banged up. I think he looked good in his opportunity Sunday. So, granted, I don't know what's going on in Arizona. Kyla, is it going to come down to Kyla Murray or the coach there. What the hell is his name? Not Shanahan. Is he going to end up? Not Shanahan. What the hell's this guy's name? The quarterback, the old quarterback in Arizona.
Shanahan. You're talking about Kingsbury.
Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Thank you. Yeah,
he looks like they look like each other.
Yeah,
they look like each other. Same dude.
I wonder if they're obviously going to fire the coach before they get rid of Murray, but something's going to end up having to give there. Granted, they are getting DeAndre Hopkins back too, so that's something to think about. He's week 6, right? He's off suspension after this week, so another guy to think about. Obviously he's probably rostered in most of your leagues, but just take a quick little gander tonight just to double check to see if he's out there.
Yeah, Kyla Murray's a guy that's, fantasy wise, a little sus, for me, a little bit, but him as a whole as a player, it's like I was listening to something Chicago, I think it was ESPN 1000 this morning. They were actually comparing him to a guy like Ben Simmons, like he has all the talent in the world, but you have questions about your work ethic, and if you're putting in the overtime it takes, as a $200 million quarterback, whatever he is. He had 250 yards last week, a touchdown, and interception. I think, as fantasy goes, he's a solid quarterback. I was expecting bigger numbers this year, but Arizona as a team is kind of slowly, stumbled out of the gate just a little bit. Could it change? Yeah. I mean, is he not a dynamic player? I'm not saying that at all. It's just I still question whether you're getting the best Kyla Murray or not. Yeah. Like he reminds me a lot of Russell Wilson in a way, right? Like a lot of scramble, a lot of breakdown, a lot of fuck it. Somebody's out there. Let me go ahead and throw it. Hopkins is out there. And in Russell's case, it was Lockett or Golden Tate or whoever. But that's kind of where I'm at with a Kyler Murray.
All right. Hey, so we kind of screwed up. We have to pick one more running back just to start 3.
Echo, Dobbins, and Hunt, right?
Yeah, we
has to choose 3 more. So we need one more.
We did pick 3.
No,
we didn't. I'm going to go with your Dobbins. I'll make it easy. I'm going to go Dobbins to my list. I'm going to add Dobbins with that.
I'll go with Herbert then.
Okay.
Yeah, Dobbins, Hunt, Herbert for me. I think. And then what did you go?
I went with Dobbins.
We went with the same.
Hunt.
Yeah, evens.
Pretty much. You got to pick or choose. But there you go, Logan. Sorry about that.
Yeah, for Sanders, Miles Sanders, I trust Jalen Hurts' legs. You know what I'm saying? Like I trust Jalen Hurts' legs. Maybe they could get touches out of the backfield and on passing plays, but I don't know how much that the Philly running backs are going to give you. Let's see what Miles Sanders had this week.
Yeah.
Oh wait, this is total. Let me see this. Full season.
Where are you?
Where was he?
Yeah, but as you look them up, I mean, it's hard to not think that the Philadelphia running back is going to do something with respects to, I mean,
here we go. He had
18,
8,
12, 5, and then 30.
Right.
So, and then he had 8
this past week. Yeah. And then
so he's an RB12 in PPR formats. I mean,
and Gainwell as well. Like I said, Philadelphia running backs, I question. I question Philadelphia running backs. I mean, maybe he has a big 18-point game, but hit or miss. Like that's how I feel.
I mean, Dobbins hasn't lit the world on fire. Didn't have any catches last week. He had 8 carries for 40 yards, 4 points. Week before he had the touchdown on it with the catch and that went on the ground. So obviously he had 12 points there plus another 10. And then 6 points in week 3. You know what? I'm gonna change my pick with Dobbins. I'm gonna go with Sanders.
Go with Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe they bust out. Maybe Dallas is gonna blitz happy and he sneaks out of the backfield, gets a big gain, through the air. Running the ball, I don't think it's gonna be a big day for him. But like pass catching, he's a good pass catcher.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He could add in that department. I just think Dallas is going to be – I'm picking Dallas this week. I think Dallas's defense is going to be what slows down the Philadelphia Eagles. But I mean, yeah, I just, for me, I don't trust the Philadelphia Eagles running backs. I'd rather go with Dobbins. I think he's going to start to heat up here towards the as the season progresses, towards the middle and back end of the season. But yeah.
So here we got Zane with a good question about tight ends. I think Hurts is tough this week. It sounds like this game script may be more of, you may see a little bit more Tyler Boyd in that offense than you will with with respects to Hayden Hurst with how that's looking. I do feel Tunyon's going to find the end zone in Green Bay going against the Jets. But Evan Ingram, as we talked about, going against, another Jacksonville, I feel like, maybe Trevor Lawrence has a bounce back. I did dog him earlier in the show today or tonight playing Indy. He definitely got involved more last week in the offense. And it seems like the matchup suits his, it's in his favor. So I'm more thinking it's Ingram or Tunyon. I don't want to support the Packers, but I almost feel like Tunyon may be the guy that has a better chance of finding the end zone. But I think Ingram's going to end up with more targets. So I think Ingram's my pick out of those three. What about you?
I'm going to go with Ingram. I want to go with Tunyon. I think the Jets secondary does a decent job with slowing people down. I mean, they've had a lot of points put up on them before this year. It's just, I don't feel like Tunyon is poised for this big breakout. I think maybe a Romeo Dobbs breaks out in this game. Maybe it's consistent Mr. Randall Cobb, but I don't think it's going to be a tight end. I think Evan Ingram is the guy that's going to break out this week. I would go ahead and start him.
Okay. I mean, Hurts had the touchdown last week. I mean, he's on a little bit of a redemption tour. He's kind of on the come up. He's not cracking my top 6 for tight ends this week, though. So you can't go wrong probably with if you're weak at tight end. I hear you, but I feel that you could get by with if you got stuck with Hurst. But it sounds like you said you have Tunyon on your roster already. Maybe the play. But I wish you luck with that one, Zane.
Yeah, and like I was mentioning, the Jets secondary they got a lot of speed. They've given up points. Like, don't get me wrong, they're not a great team, but I think with how the Packers are set up, you're going to look to a guy like Tunyon, a veteran like Tunyon, and a veteran like Randall Cobb to be the outlets and to be the guys to focus on. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to give up a lot to Tunyon. I don't even think the Packers win that game, to be honest with you. I like how the Jets are looking. Like I said, I like their Zach Wilson.
Zach didn't look bad. Yeah,
he didn't look bad. He looks like he has an attitude. You know what I'm saying? Banging MILFs and shit. Breece Hall, we had mentioned him as well. I think the Jets actually pulled that one out. But as far as tight ends go, yeah, Ingram.
Okay. All right.
Well, let's.
Any other gentlemen that you want to chat about?
No, I'm good. I'm actually ready to wrap.
I'm
spent. I was actually drinking coffee before this. Like, all right, you got to stay up. I was watching the base. I mean, we were talking before, and then Claudio's technical difficulties. I was just beats, but that coffee kind of kept me through. Talking to you kept me through. Having the guys in the chat, chop it up and talk football, got me through it. And I'm happy to be here, man. Happy to be here with you guys again on Keeping It Fantasy. Short week this week for TTNL. A lot of stuff.
Big show tomorrow night.
Big show tomorrow night. Let them know who's going to be on tomorrow.
Dude, another great guest. TTNL absolutely slaying it. Fucking every weekend or every Wednesday weekend. Jesus, it is late. Every Wednesday, 8:30 East. We have the great former Chicago Bears running back, Mr. Thomas Jones, joining us tomorrow evening. Going to be a great show. Like I said, tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 Central. Be there. Be square.
Be there. Be square. Thomas Jones. And then, of course, right at our halftime, you're going to have Phil and Shane at halftime during the Bears and the Commanders. And then, of course, BHL right after Bears Commanders on Thursday night football. It's going to be a late one. So if you're catching it with us, if you're staying up late with us, make sure you're there. If not, make sure you check it out wherever you can on any social media platform that you go ahead and consume your content on.
Absolutely.
Also, go ahead and go to www.thetapeneverlies.com, become a patron. It's not that expensive. You're not going to go ahead and have to sell your firstborn to go ahead and get a membership. Go ahead and do that, and you're going to get tons more breakdown, tons more content from the best Bears content, with some of the best Bears content in the world. Don't forget to go to thetapeneverlies.com to get more. And Jackal, love being here with you, man. Love talking ball with you.
Absolutely. Claudio, we missed you, brother.
Claudio, man, I was so excited to get Claudio back on. He looked excited too. I feel bad. I feel bad. He looked like just like when we said no, he was just like, oh. Yeah.
Took the wind right out of his sails. I was like, damn. Yeah, it's like a little kid that dropped his ice cream cone.
Single tear down the cheek, and it got me too. But anyway, guys, go ahead. Yeah, I mean,
no, I was just with you, man. I'm like, I felt bad.
Yeah, I felt bad. We'll get him back on next week. Anyway, for Chris Jackal, I'm Ivan Vargas. You've been watching Keepin It Fantasy on the Tape Never Lies Network. We'll see you guys next week.
What's your fantasy? What's your fantasy? Keepin It Fantasy. What's your football fantasy? Keepin It Fantasy. What's your football fantasy? Keepin It Fantasy. What's your football fantasy? What's your fantasy? Keepin It Fantasy. What's your football fantasy? You come home after a long day. You need football in your life the TTNL way. You tap on your phone at the fantasy play. Pause, not like that before you take it the wrong way. You have an idea what players to draft. Then tap on a beer like genuine draft. Study all the players, look close at the stats. A QB first, then a top running back. First you hear Cool Kennedy audio. Then on your screen you see Jackal, Ivan, and Claudio. It's a Tape Never Lies production. They keep it fantasy with Ivan's porno production. Keepin It Fantasy, what's your football fantasy? Keepin It Fantasy, what's your football fantasy?